Alright guys, this is episode number 1. We're going to be critiquing your work. I know you've been waiting patiently for this. I'm here. Let's go. Let's jump into the first one. This is work from Shailene. She's been tattooing for 2 months. She practiced on fake skin for a while, then went on to her own skin. She did this piece in 2 sessions. Was wondering what she could do to improve. Okay, today I wanted to not just get my input on these things and what I think, but I brought my wife with me too. She's around tattoos all the time, and it's kind of an outside source. What does she think? Just from looking at it. So, Alicia, what do you think?
Right off the bat, it looks pretty good.
Okay.
The only thing I would say to possibly change up some when doing the next piece is the leaves. The leaves, I don't know. They have too much shading in it or too much of something in it, and it kind of throws off the openness of the flowers.
Okay. So for me, looking at this piece, if you're going to keep these leaves here, then I feel like there needs to be maybe one right here or something to balance the darkness off. Because we have one here, we have one here, one here. If we had one here, it would make this emptiness in these flowers pop a little bit more, in my opinion.
I think you are on the right track.
Right.
I think that would help.
Yeah, because I'm a fan of a dark leaf, especially when we want to keep the flower itself super light. Okay, so we have some shading down here in different spots, and I see what looks like you're trying to do like a bit of a stippled effect on some of these. In some spots, I think you did okay. In other spots here, just didn't quite follow through with it. I'm not disliking it by any means. I just think that what you could do is work a little bit more on the stippling. So your lining from this picture looks all right. Of course, we all struggle with lining, can always get better. From this picture, it looks okay. So don't stop practicing that. But I think for you and what style this piece is in, stippling is going to be your best friend because I think that's what you're trying to do here. So maybe practice a little bit more of that till you get comfortable getting the stipples the way you want it. And then just kind of refine it on fake skin. Maybe have a little section of your skin where you can practice this. Or just get back into this piece and start working on that stippling a little bit. 2 months, I think this is looking very nice, considering 2 months. I know maybe some people are going to look at some of the pieces we're looking at and go, that's not that great. Well, if you consider where somebody's at and what they're doing, you can tell when somebody's on the right track. You can tell when they just need to back up. Okay, I think you're on the right track. Just work on those few things and send me another piece down the road and we'll see where we're at then. Next tattoo we're going to look at from Juan. So Juan sent this in. These are both done on his wife, and this one is done on himself on his thigh. So the first ones we're going to take a look at are the heart and the lotus, and as usual, Alicia, what are your thoughts looking at these ones right here?
The heart looks better than the lotus does. The lotus, the line weight kind of doesn't go together throughout the whole thing.
Right,
meaning
okay.
Like
it's not consistent?
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay, all right, fair enough, because that's very much what I'm seeing when I am looking at this. I do think the heart is better than the lotus, but let's dive in and take a little look at this. Okay, if we zoom in here and we take a look at this heart, we can see that they started off with a pretty good thickness here, but then as it comes down, we lose a little bit here, a little bit here. Hearts are tricky because it's curves. Curves can be tricky, especially when they both have to be pretty much the same exact curve. Hearts and circles are not something you want to be doing right off the bat. Now let's jump up to the lotus real quick here. So we have what looks to be pretty thin lines over here, thin lines up here, and really thick. They have bumps in them. They're kind of moving all over the place, and this could be because many different things, many different factors could cause this. The biggest thing is that you're maybe not getting a good stretch, or you're not confident with that needle grouping, or you're running the line and it's not sticking the way you want it, so you're running it again, you're missing your line, or you get a little shaky, or you're picking up and you're going back down. The number one thing you want to do before you use any more skin is make sure that your lines are looking decent. You want to have some sort of smoothness in your lines. Now, again, we're always struggling with lines, but make sure you feel confident with a line and a liner. Know what your lines are supposed to look like in the skin and go from there. For here, I would say, I don't know if you practice this particular piece on fake skin or not, but I would definitely have practiced this a little bit more before doing this. Now, I'm sure you learned a lot from this, But moving forward, I would definitely say preserve as much of that skin for something that you really, especially on your wife. I know it because I've tattooed her, huh?
Yes.
Yes. Now, there's a couple pieces I wish that, I should have waited. I should have taken my time. But definitely keep working at it. Work on your lines. Work at consistency. Look at this. Save these pieces because you can always look back on them and see how far you've really gone and what you've improved on. So let's jump to the next piece where I think you started to figure things out a little bit. Much better line work. Does it still need help? Of course, but it's much better. More consistency here. These lines look a little bit better. You got a little bit of a blowout over here, and there's some spots a lot of times in these points because you're probably either starting there and moving and then starting there again and moving that way, or you're ending there. Something's causing your points to get a little bit fat. The other thing here, we're still dealing with some consistency issues. As you can see here, it looks like maybe you tried to go over a line or smooth it out. It can be tricky. But as a whole, I see improvement in this piece, and that's a plus. You want to be improving, and you did this on yourself, which again is where you definitely want to be practicing. Practice on yourself so that if you make mistakes, they're on you, you own it, you can cover it up as you get better or whatnot. Now, you did say you practiced shading for the first time on this piece, and I can see that. You put some shading in the leaves, and again, I'm a sucker for a dark leaf, so I do like that, but really, this leaf over here is probably my favorite of the batch. You get a little bit of, it's smooth, a bit of a gradient, would you say? A gradient. Where up here, it just kind of looks like it's just kind of splotchy all over the place. Maybe you rushed it, maybe you were figuring it out, but when you got to this one, it was nice. Just start here in the center and whip it out a little bit. Whip it out, whip it out, whip it out, whip it out, whip, 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 whip. That's how I would have done that, especially when you're learning. So go back. Again, don't be afraid to go back and bust out some fake skin and work on these techniques and then bring it back to the skin. But try to bring it back to your own skin. Our next piece from Ralphie. Ralphie has done some black filling before. He's tattooed black and filled it in, but this was the first time he filled red in. What you're looking at right now is 1 month healed. Okay, Alicia, what are your thoughts? You see this pop up. You see this walking around. What are your thoughts?
I like the concept of it.
Okay.
I haven't really seen many tattoos like that, at least not in our area, and I think it's a pretty cool concept.
Okay, yeah, I think so too. I think like if you're wearing this, there's nothing wrong with it. Does it have any sort of really, anything crazy? No, I don't think tattoos have to be crazy and have to have tons of shading, everything to be a nice looking tattoo. Are there some things here? Of course, but as a whole, I think if you were to walk around with this, you'll be okay. It's a decent looking tattoo. So let's dive into it and take a look. Okay, so everything looks pretty good. If you zoom in on here, lines going around, and doing black is a great thing to work on in the beginning. And I say that because let's say you're going to line and the line gets a little shaky because you're learning. It's like, oh no. The great part is when practicing and doing something in pure black is, again, you can go around the outside, and let's say you start to get shaky or whatnot, or something happens. Well, you're filling it in black, so you can come back in there and smooth that out, smooth it out, smooth it out until you got it, and then come back through with your mag or whatnot, and fill the whole thing in. Now, that is why I think doing something in a solid black or in a solid color is a great way to practice. Also, another thing, and I'm sorry I'm using your tattoo to explain this, but in this empty area, if you're practicing, you could be running lines. You know this is going to be packed with black, and you know you're here to practice. So run some lines in there. Get comfortable doing some loop. Take your time. Don't just waste it. Nice and slow and steady. Make sure it's good, because guess what? When you're done, you're just going to go through and fill this all in black. You're not going to see it anyhow. Take the time. Use that area that's going to be covered up to just practice lines, because clearly that is one of the biggest struggles. So practice those there. Here it looks like we got a little bit of healing still going on maybe. You work that area a little bit harder. And then you did say about your reds, you weren't, it didn't quite heal exactly the way you wanted it. And I see that. But again, I think it healed pretty decently considering this was the first time you were filling in complete area in a color. It's not always the easiest thing to do, and especially when you're experiencing a lot of things for the first time. I think you did a good job. Now, you used a round shader for this, and that might be great, but the size of it, I think you should up the size a little bit. It might make the process a bit quicker, And maybe even experiment with a mag needle. If you're going to do another piece like this, in that it's got a heavy area of black or heavy bit of color, this is a good time to try to figure out those mags. They're later going to help you tremendously if you can get comfortable with them. So use moments like this to practice, because you're just going to cover it up anyhow with that black. So filling in black and packing in color and having it heal a month later as one of the first things you've done, I think you're doing a good job. So thank you for sending that in. Our next piece up is from Connor. Now this first piece you're looking at is a piece of fake skin that he did work on, which really shows the ability to shade and what have you. And then we jump over to the next piece, and this is the main piece we're going to be talking about today that he sent in. He also sent in this one here as well, which I thought was pretty cool, but we're mainly going to be diving into this one. So real quick, let's get Alicia's thoughts on it.
The lines definitely need to be worked on some.
They're popping out at you? They
are. Mainly around like the ears area.
Okay.
Just at the first glance.
All right. I have seen this kind of concept done, but hey, look, it's cool. But let's dive into it because there's some stuff here. All right. So like we said before, we're jumping into the ears up here. But even before we get to the ears, though, you want to take a look at all these lines. Okay, this line. The problem I'm having right here is, and it's hard to say this because I know it's going to hurt, but there's no really good line here. And I know that sucks, and it's not cool to hear because I could tell by your fake skin that you can shade. You have some, you can tell where dark and shades are supposed to go. And in here, what I really like is that there's some stimpling happening, some actual stimpling. I'm seeing little dots of stimples here, which is cool. I like this, and I like that design. Once you get where you want to be, you're going to kill it on this stuff. But I got to slow down. You have to control every line, one line at a time. Now, I did notice on your other piece there where you touched up that triangle, that looked a little nicer, much smoother. The shading was nice. Some of the lines could still need a little work. But I'm talking about this piece right here. I could point to almost anywhere, to be honest here. This line is nice and straight, and maybe they're meant to be different, of course. But again, over here, you'd really, that's out there in the open. You can see that. Now, I don't know if maybe your problem is you're not getting a good stretch on the skin. Maybe the needle you're using wasn't quite what you wanted. I'm not sure what's happening here, but I have to say, slow down. Either slow down and get back to practicing on the fake skin. At the end of the day, the lines are what are holding this together. And in this tattoo, the lines are very, very prominent. You have no choice but to really go back and start working on honing those lines. You'll be so grateful that you did. You're so grateful that you took the time to go back and practice those. But thank you for sending that in. I hope this critique helps. Keep at it, okay? Don't let critique stop you. Let critique build you. Next person up is Al. Al sent in quite a few pieces. We're going to focus on this particular piece right here. Now, again, real quick, we're going to let Alicia let us know what she thinks right off the bat. So, Alicia, what do you think here on this one?
It's a little hard to read for me. It's kind of muddy. There's really no change between the different things in there for me to tell.
Okay. Well, thank you. And again, I think you're kind of right here. So that's kind of why I chose this one, because I think I can, give a little bit of my 2 cents here on this one. Let's dive in and take a quick look. So coming in here, the problem is when you're looking at this, it, again, like Alicia said, it all gets kind of muddy. And that's because we have the same shade here, that we have here, that we have here, that we have here. The same shade that's all up here. It seems very one-noted. You have your black, and then you know where there's darkness, and you're just putting in what appears to be the same value shade. So I think what really needs to happen is you need to punch in either some more black or let more parts of this tattoo breathe. Figure out where are your light spots and make sure you just leave those alone maybe. Make sure your dark is where the dark needs to go. So in some spots, I would just come in here. I don't know 100% what is what here, but just really make sure certain areas are darker. When it comes to the lines as well, a few here as a whole, they look okay. It's not jumping out at me saying, hey, these lines are not right. There are definitely some issues with the lining here and there, but the overall issue here is just the legibility. If this area back here is in the back, I mean it's pushed back more, it needs to be darker because everything kind of looks like it's on the same plane, and that's because the shadows aren't quite there. You want it to be darker around this jaw piece, however you can. Those teeth coming out, we want those to stand out, but if it's the same shade, it all just becomes flat. So push out what you want pushed out and pull back what you want pulled back, and you do that with light and dark. It seems like you know how to apply shade. It would just be make sure that you think a little more about how much value you apply to each area that you're tattooing. I hope that makes sense. But again, I thank you for sending this in. Thank you for sending in the other ones as well. I just want to thank everybody for sending in their work. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails of your guys' work. You guys sending your work in and letting me show it to other people and critique it a little bit is going to help a lot of people out. Appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, ring the bell to get notifications. And until next time, peace.